Bohemia, year 1253. The forest trembled under the sound of cutting winds, and beneath it, in damp, dark corridors of ancient stone, the fate of a man was about to be sealed, not by justice, but by fear of what had been discovered. Torches flickered against moss-covered walls, and the humidity made the air feel heavier than silence itself. Two guards marched slowly through the corridor of the underground prison. One held a lit torch, its flame casting long, almost human shadows that danced across the stone steps. The wooden gate groaned as if resisting the man's touch, and then they entered. In the cell, two prisoners shared the cold and the darkness. The first, chained, watched in silence. His eyes were dry as if they no longer knew how to weep. The second, older, awoke to the sound of chains dragging and shuddered. "Don't go," the old man whispered, his voice brittle, like someone who had lost everything. "Don't accept it. Better to die on the gallows than to enter that hole." The younger man frowned, confused. "Hole? What hole?" "The one in the mountain, where the ground never ends, where the wind whispers names and even rats stay away. They've taken two already, and the priests now only pray in silence." The guard didn't wait. He grabbed the prisoner by the arms and dragged him out of the cell. The old man gave one last cry through the bars. "They won't free you. They'll bury you standing, screaming in the dark." But there was no answer. Only footsteps carried down crooked corridors where not even echoes dared return. They climbed narrow stairs, past images of saints whose eyes had been worn down by time. Monks whispered soft Latin prayers, turning their faces away, as if the very presence of the man tainted the air with something unholy. Until at last, they reached the judgment hall. Three figures sat in silence, their eyes cold, as still as stone. The prisoner was pushed to the center, made to kneel, his breath still heavy. Before him, a man dressed in local authority robes raised his voice. "You have been sentenced for theft, desecration, and violence against men of faith. Your execution is set for dawn." The silence that followed was colder than the stone beneath his knees. But then, something different. "There is a choice," said the man, looking directly at him. "To the north on Mount Houska, there is a hole, bottomless, a fissure that defies reason. The villagers call it a gate to hell. If you descend and tell us what lies below, you will go free." The prisoner looked up, wary. "You want me to go into a hole even light doesn't come back from?" The official didn't blink.
"Yes, and if you return alive..."
"You return free." The prisoner looked away. He remembered the old man's words, the screams he sometimes heard at night, muffled by the wind. People had died there, or things that were no longer people. For a moment, silence consumed him from the inside, and then he spoke.
"Maybe the gallows is too quick. Maybe I want to see what no one has and still come back to tell it." He looked the man before him in the eye. "I'll go." That night, no bells rang. The sky remained still. Not even the wind dared to blow, for something was about to be awakened, something that should never have been touched. Morning came gray. No sun, no wind, as if the world itself were holding its breath. The prisoner, now shaved and dressed in a simple robe, was led along a narrow trail, surrounded by twisted trees that seemed to shrink away from what awaited them. The carriage slowly climbed the slopes of Mount Houska, a place where birds did not sing, where time felt suspended, Upon arrival, he stepped down, squinting at the structure before him. A castle of cold stone built around nothing. Houska wasn't made to protect from what lay outside. There were no outward-facing fortifications. All the windows faced inward, as if the true enemy was locked beneath its foundation. In the center of the hall, an opening in the ground surrounded by iron bars. It was more than a hole, it was a wound. The air that rose from it was cold, foul, like the breath of something that had been sleeping for centuries. Monks gathered around, faces hidden under hoods. They chanted in ancient Latin, burned incense, cast salt, and placed Christian symbols around the pit. And still they trembled. The prisoner stood before the abyss. Ropes were fastened around his chest, legs, and shoulders. A sturdy leather belt gripped his waist. 2 strong men would handle the descent, and a third read psalms under his breath, sweaty hands gripping an iron cross. "Are you ready?" asked the captain, his face pale. The prisoner gave no answer, but he stepped forward, eyes locked on the void, as if something below was calling his name. And then he began to descend. Inch by inch, his body was swallowed by the darkness. First his feet, then his legs, then his torso. The torchlight lit only a few feet, and then nothing. Only the sound of the rope sliding, and the void waiting. For a while there was silence. Then suddenly, a scream. Not human. Something high-pitched, piercing, desperate. A mix of fear, pain, and something inhuman. The ropes began to thrash violently. "Pull him back, now!" one of the monks shouted. The men pulled with all their strength. The rope resisted. There was something down there, something that didn't want to let go. And then he emerged, trembling, screaming, his skin cold, his eyes wide, foam at his mouth. His hair, once dark, now streaked with white. And his face was the face of someone who had seen hell and returned to warn us. "They have claws," he whispered. "They have no faces, but they see everything. They were waiting for me." He writhed, tried to escape the men's grip as if still falling. His screams continued for days, until his voice simply vanished. He never spoke a coherent word again. No one ever truly knew what he saw. But the monks ordered the hole sealed with stones and crosses. They built room upon room, brick upon brick, as if silence could smother what lived down there. But even today, they say that on moonless nights, you can hear the whispers, calling for another. In the days that followed his return, the man was kept silent, but not by command. It was his own body that refused to speak. He remained seated, trembling, eyes fixed on the dark corners of the room, murmuring words that belonged to no known language. The monks tried to pray for him, but each prayer seemed to agitate him more. Each sacred touch made his skin burn as if being branded again. They said that at night, he would rise from bed without a sound and stand before the locked doors of the church, as if hearing someone call from the other side. His eyes never blinked. He did not sleep, and sometimes he smiled. Not a peaceful smile, but the smile of someone who was no longer the same. A week later, the monks found him kneeling before the altar, nails dug into the stone floor, head bowed, body cold, but no one dared approach, because even in death his lips still moved, as if repeating something he heard down below, a name or a curse. Some say he died there, others swear the body was never buried, that it disappeared. Today, Houska Castle still stands. Its stones have been restored. Tourists walk its corridors, but few know what rests beneath its foundations. The whole was sealed with concrete steel, prayers, and silence. But at night, when the wind slices through the pines, some visitors say they hear voices that aren't human, long, thin laughter echoing from the sealed basements. And on certain nights when the moon vanishes from the sky, some swear they see a slender figure in an ancient cloak, watching from the high windows, without eyes, but seeing everything. What entered that hole never came back whole, and what came out may never have been human, because there are places where evil doesn't visit, it lives.